Hey, what's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a special video. No video review for this week or for this time around. I'll get to one soon, though. I'm working on some stuff to be exact, but for this one, I'm gonna do basically, actually the top 9 PS4 games released in 2018, or at least the ones I thought were the best, the top 9, though. I was going to do a top 10, but it was very tough to find, like, that 10th one, though. And these were probably the only ones I could think of that I enjoyed the most, that I thought were really good for 2018 for the PS4, though. Even though I felt this year wasn't as good as, say, last year was, especially when you had games like Nier Automata, Null, and like games like Horizon Zero Dawn. That's not to say 2018 was bad for PlayStation in general or anything like that, minus certain decisions Sony made, like the whole cross-platform issue that they later fixed that, to the whole change in policy they have in terms of certain certain things developers can put into their games and all that stuff that might be now deemed inappropriate and all that stuff. But this has to do with the top 9 games that have been released on the PlayStation 4 in 2018, and these are going to be my picks. So why don't we get started with the first one? Let me get my list up so I don't forget. And we'll start off with the first one. This one I did pick up in 2018. Unfortunately, didn't get to do a review of it, though, which is very unfortunate. Maybe I will at some point down the road. But number 9 on this list is going to go to Dead Rising 4, Frank's Big Package. That's wonderful. That's a very interesting name to call it, though. Dead Rising has been a series I've always wanted to get into, but I've always had a hard time getting into. I like the idea, which is sort of like, it comes off as sort of like a guilty pleasure kind of a game where, unlike, say, like Resident Evil, where basically it was survival horror, this one, the zombies aren't like scary or anything like that. It's just a sandbox game where you just basically fool around and find any everyday items, or find what you can to basically figure out a way how to take care of the zombies, though. Past games had sort of like a time limit and all that stuff, and that, while some people did not have an issue with that, others kind of felt turned off by it, though. So it was kind of refreshing to see Dead Rising 4 eliminate that time limit that give you more freedom to kind of fool around a bit and figure out how to take out enemies, how to take out zombies and all that stuff. So it was definitely fun and definitely an enjoyable game. And of course, just like the trademark of it, you could dress up Frank West or your character as anybody as you want to. In this case, you could even have him dress up as Cammy from Street Fighter series, which is interesting to say the least. But hey, whatever floats your boat on that one, though. So, Dead Rising 4, Frank Big's Package. It's hey, you know what? If I said in my My Two Cent video the Panty Party name, I could probably say Frank's Big Package as well. So, number 9 on this one goes to Dead Rising 4. Number 8 on this one is going to go to Far Cry 5, to be exact. Far Cry, I never really got into the series as much with that game. I did try to get into it with Far Cry 4, and it was alright and all that stuff. It wasn't perfect. Far Cry 5 definitely was definitely fun, and it also made some changes to the series, though. Rather than the traditional go to the top of the tower that unlocks everything in that area, I personally don't have a huge issue with that, but I understand some people, not everybody likes that. It basically gives you the freedom, to like explore, and you have to find these stuff as well. So it definitely shaked up the formula a little bit, but otherwise, it's the classic tried and true Ubisoft open world formula. Whether you love that or hate that, that's your opinion on that one. But it is still a fun game, and definitely a very fun first-person shooter, to be exact. So, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Far Cry New Dawn turns out. But either way, I like the gameplay, I like the stealth approach, gunplay is still good, and so forth. Story is interesting, despite some controversy that some reviewers didn't like the fact that it was an anti-Trump message, which, don't get me wrong, I do not like Trump. Would have been nice to see anti-Trump message, but I don't think the game should get a negative review just because it didn't have an anti-Trump message in any way. But it was a sort of an interesting story. The character, if I'm saying his name correct, shoot, if I could find his name, shoot. Well, anyway, he was basically the head of the cult and all that stuff. Was a very interesting character, to be exact. But overall, Far Cry 5 was definitely a fun game, and it was definitely one of Ubisoft's better games. So at number 8, Far Cry 5. Number 7 goes to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, though. Now, ever since Assassin's Creed Origins came out, that sort of gave the series kind of a reboot or a fresh start that it really needed after the debacle of the mess that was Assassin's Creed Unity, and we all know how all that played out. And Odyssey definitely was an interesting game, as it takes us into sort of the Greek era, and an era of Greeks and all that stuff, ancient Greece and so forth, and it definitely gave off a bit more of that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flags. I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, which a lot of Assassin's Creed fans have enjoyed. It still follows more closely to the Origins than, say, the past Assassin's Creed games. It does shake up the formula a little bit, but it follows closely to the Origins series. As much as I enjoy the game, I will say I won't deny some of the controversies, such as the Tostita promotion, where you earn points that you can use in the game, to the use of the microtransaction, which, as a side note, I haven't run into an issue where I had to spend money on microtransactions based on my time with the game, but that doesn't mean the criticism is going away. And the fact that they released this a year after Origins does raise some concerns about if they're doing the next Assassin's Creed game, will they give the developer some time to maybe iron out some areas? But overall, like Far Cry 5, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, in my opinion, is one of Ubisoft's better games out there. It still is fun. I still enjoyed it, though, and it's why I'm putting it at number 7. Alright, at number 6, I'm going with Darksiders 3 for the PS4. To me, I've been a fan of, like I said before in my review of Darksiders 3, I've been a fan of the Darksiders series. Even though technically the first one felt like you could point out like that part is Zelda, that part is God of War, that part is Maximo. Same with the second one though. But nevertheless, they are fun games. And while Darksiders 3 is controversial to some folks out there, though, I still enjoy it, and I really didn't have a huge problem with them taking a Dark Souls approach to the game, though. And it definitely, not only that, it definitely gave off a little bit of that Castlevania vibe to it in a way. So it was definitely a fun game. I understand it's controversial. I understand not everybody was a fan of it, but I definitely enjoyed it when it came out, and I'm putting it at number 6. Excuse me. Alright, at number 5, I'm putting up Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. I'm not the biggest Yakuza fan out there, but it is a series I've started to get into a little bit more, and I like the fact that it is, that basically open world approach to the game. There are times when the game is serious, and there are times when the game does get into some of it being a bit silly, but it is fun, especially to see the main character interact in the area, whether it's playing like arcade games, getting into fights, and so forth, or doing some of the side or story missions, though. So like I said, some of it's silly, some of it is just serious, though, but overall, it is definitely a fun game, just like the other entries in, excuse me, just like the other entries in the Yakuza series, though. And it's a shame, supposedly this is the last entry in the series, though. From what I understand, if it is, then hopefully it's great that it's a final send-off, though. So at number 5, Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. Oops. Oh, that didn't break. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, which will be the 4-1 on my top 9 PlayStation PS4 games of 2018. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our top 9 PS4 games of 2018. I hope I said that last time. If I said top 10, I apologize and all that stuff. So now we're on to our down to 4 to number 1 game. So we'll start off with the number 4 game on the PS4 for 2018, and that is Dragon Crown Pro. I remember playing this game when it came out on the PS3 and the PS Vita, and it definitely was a fun game. It paid homage to several classic hack and slash, like say Sega's Golden Axe series that came into mind, and I'm also love the art style in the game. I always enjoyed Vanilleware's art style and their classic 2D gameplay, whether it was Odin Sphere or Muramasa, the Demon Blade, though. Their games were always beautiful looking and enjoy to play and all that stuff. I'm aware that Dragon Crown Pro also had its share of controversy back in the day, including the design of the Sorceress, and I'm sure all of you know, based on if you've seen the Sorceress from the Dragon Crown series, you know what it is, but I don't think it's a huge deal, but that's my take on it. But overall, it's a fun game, it's classic, 2D gameplay, playing homages to the old hack and slash games back in the 80s and 90s, mostly Golden Axe though, and it definitely goes in at number 4 on my list. Alright, so now we're going on to number 3, and number 3 on my list is Marvel's Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man has a history of being a hit and a miss on some games. While Spider-Man 2, before Marvel's Spider-Man came out, at the time was considered by many to be the best Spider-Man game, and it certainly was, other Spider-Man games have not really hit the mark as well. Outside of maybe some on like the Nintendo DS with Ultimate Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3 and Webs of Shadow, other entries on the consoles and so forth have not been exactly great. And then of course there was the ones based off of the Amazing Spider-Man movies, which while the first one wasn't necessarily bad, not everybody was a fan of the second one. Of course, Activision later lost the license to that, and Sony did a Spider-Man game and gave it to Insomniac Games, famous for games like the Ratchet & Clank series, Sunset Overdrive, the Resistance and Fall of Man series to be exact, and of course, their indie game Song of the Deep. And the game, to me, was like the second best Spider-Man game since Spider-Man 2 back on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox era. The swinging in the game was excellent. Combat definitely gave off a Arkham feel to it, which certainly isn't a bad thing. And the story, of course, is very interesting. There was, of course, the controversy with it, with the whole Puddlegate and all that stuff. And while I certainly think the Puddlegate thing was just blown way out of proportion and all of that, I mean, visually speaking, it's not a bad looking game, but compared to games like God of War or Red Dead Redemption 2, those are probably better looking games, but this certainly was not a terrible looking game at all. But overall, Spider-Man was definitely a blast and one of the better, probably the second best Spider-Man game out there. Here's to hoping if they do a sequel, which I believe they probably will. Let's hopefully we'll see that one too. Alright, at number 2, this one I had to debate which one I wanted to make number 2 and number 1, and after carefully thinking this through and trying to figure it out, I'm standing by what I rank at number 2 and at number 1. So, get started with number 2. Red Dead Redemption 2. To me, this to me is, if there's any company that knows how to do open world games, it's Rockstar itself, and Red Dead Redemption 2 is not a disappointment. The game looks visually stunning, even on a base PS4. Gameplay is still enjoyable, still fun, especially using the Deadeye and all. And of course, Rockstar is known for being the king of open world games, and there are plenty, and I mean plenty, to do in a game like Red Dead Redemption 2. And of course, the story, while it gets off to a rough start from the beginning, definitely takes off at around chapter 2, and it definitely gives off a bit of that Quentin Tarantino vibe to the game. So it's definitely one of the funnest open world games I have played in a while on the PS4, and it's definitely as fun as what Grand Theft Auto 5 is. Although between the two series, as much as I like Grand Theft Auto 5, as much as I like the Grand Theft Auto series, I like the Red Dead Redemption series a little bit more. I don't know why. It's just that I prefer those games over the Grand Theft Auto excuse me, series. But overall, Red Dead Redemption 2 is definitely a blast, and definitely one you should add on your list or add to your collection whether you have a PS4 or an Xbox One, and should serve as a reminder that it is possible to make a AAA game that looks good and plays good as well. And finally, my number one game for the PlayStation 4 is, of course, God of War. This is off the collector's edition. You can kind of put this, see right there, God of War, though. It was certainly interesting when they first revealed God of War a couple of years ago, especially the direction that they were going with it. There were some people that were cautiously optimistic, especially me, where although they liked what they saw, they were a little bit concerned about the change in its direction. And at the end, though, the change in direction for the series actually wasn't that bad at all. The story itself is very interesting, especially your interaction with Kratos' son. It showed Kratos, a man trying to move on from his past, from his anger and his rage, including exploring the whole world of Midgard and the whole Norse mythology and everything like that. It definitely was a very interesting and fascinating story. Of course, combat, although not on the same level as, say, the past God of War game, was still brutal and still fun and enjoyable out there. So this definitely, I can see why this one won Game of the Year, and I can see why the developers put a lot of heart and soul in this game. And I think this game, along with Octopath Traveler, not trying to compare the two in any way, they both have different styles of gameplay, but they do share something in common. This game, along with Octopath Traveler, along with games like Red Dead Redemption 2, should serve as a reminder of a couple things. One, single-player games are not dead, despite what some people have to say. And two, you can have a successful game, and that doesn't have to have microtransactions or be a live service or anything like that. You can have a rock-solid, fun, single-player game, and it could still be a huge success. If you put time and effort in it, and you put good word of mouth out of it, people will buy your game. And I think God of War should serve as a good example of that, especially to other developers that rely heavily on trying to figure out how to nickel and dime people with death, or try to push out microtransaction that comes off as an anti-consumer practice. Hello, EA and Activision Blizzard. But overall, God of War, fun, enjoyable, love the story. It visually looks good even on a base PS4. Definitely my number one PS4 game of 2018. Okay, this concludes my top 10 PlayStation 4, my top 9. I'm sorry if I keep mixing the numbers up, my bad. My top 9 PlayStation 4 games of 2018. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about my top 9 PS4 games of 2018? Do you agree with this list? Do you disagree? Do you have a different opinion? Do you have a top 9 or top 10 PlayStation 4 games of 2018 that is different from mine? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell. Excuse me. Make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good evening then. Bye!